Good evening. No, that word doesn't fit tonight. There is nothing good about this evening. This is Alex Mercer, broadcasting live on an open frequency that's still breathing, still humming, still holding together by copper wire and stubborn hope. If you can hear me, you are not alone, though I know it feels like you are. The city went dark 43 minutes ago. Power grids collapsed in a staggered failure, one substation at a time, like a body shutting down organs it can no longer afford. First the financial district, then the residential belts, then the hospitals switched to backup, then the backups began to ration. And now we are in that ancient condition humanity pretends it has outgrown. Night. Real night. The kind that does not apologize for itself. I'm watching the street below the studio through reinforced glass that reflects more than it reveals. By day, it's a harmless stretch of concrete. Coffee shop on the corner. Bus stop with peeling ads. A mural about unity that always felt more aspirational than honest. By night, with the lights gone, the street has become a borderland. Shapes move without names. Sound travels farther than sight, which means fear arrives before understanding. A car alarm screamed itself hoarse 5 minutes ago and then died, as if even panic ran out of batteries. Darkness doesn't just take away what you can see, it takes away what you can prove. And when proof disappears, accountability goes with it. This is not philosophy. This is observable behavior. We've studied it. We've lived it. And tonight, we are drowning in it. Let me give you what we know in real time. Emergency services are overwhelmed, not collapsed, but fractured. Dispatch is receiving triple the usual call volume, mostly reports of movement, shouting, forced entries, fights that begin over nothing and escalate over everything. Police units are being pulled back into clusters, not to protect neighborhoods, but to protect each other. That's not cowardice, it's survival doctrine. When visibility drops, response times stretch, and every unknown becomes a potential ambush. Fire crews are standing down unless flames are visible from a distance. Ambulances are staging at lit intersections that no longer exist. This is how cities unravel, not in one explosion, but in 1,000 decisions made in the dark. I want to read you a message that just came in from a listener named Rosa, time-stamped 7 minutes ago. Alex, I'm on the 12th floor near Riverside. The hallway lights are out. Someone keeps knocking on doors, not saying anything. People are whispering behind walls. It feels like prey waiting for a predator, or the other way around. What do we do? Rosa, if you're still listening, here's the truth they don't teach in safety briefings. Silence is information. Do not open your door. Do not respond to knocks without verification through a secondary channel. Call a neighbor you trust. Text through a group thread. Listen for patterns. Predators probe before they push. Stay quiet. Stay boring. Stay unremarkable. Survival favors those who don't advertise. Because here's what happens after sunset. After real sunset. When the infrastructure we depend on simply blinks out. Humanity changes faster than we like to admit. You can feel it in your chest before your mind catches up. Faces harden, even familiar ones. The neighbor who smiled at you this morning now scans your hands instead of your eyes. Conversations shrink to transactions. Eye contact becomes a challenge, not a courtesy. This is not because people suddenly become evil. It's because trust is a luxury, and luxury requires light. In darkness, Every human becomes a calculation. What do they want? What do they have? What would they do if no one could see them do it? I'm getting reports now. Stand by, yes. Confirmed movement near the old transit hub. Groups forming, not chanting, not organized, just coalescing. This is important. Hollywood tells us mobs are ideological. Reality says they're logistical. People gather where there's shelter, rumor, and the possibility of control. Someone shouts a direction, someone else follows, and suddenly momentum replaces morality. Violence becomes preemptive instead of reactive. You don't wait to be threatened. You strike to avoid being threatened. That's how rational minds make irrational choices when the cost of hesitation feels higher than the cost of harm. Let me ground this with science because panic feeds on mystery. Darkness triggers the amygdala, the brain's threat center, more aggressively than almost any other environmental factor. When visual input drops, the brain fills the gaps with worst-case scenarios. Cortisol spikes. Fine motor skills degrade. Empathy narrows. This isn't weakness. It's biology. Add scarcity, real or perceived, and cooperation fractures. Urban centers were built on density and shared systems. But when systems fail, density turns predatory. Too many needs in too small a space with no referee. Cities don't explode. They consume themselves, piece by piece, block by block, night by night. Listener Marcus writes from the East Side, "I just watched 3 guys argue over a generator. No weapons at first. Then someone pulled a tire iron. Now everyone's gone, generator too. There was no winner." Marcus, thank you for saying that last part. There was no winner. Remember that. In these conditions, conflict rarely produces advantage. Only exhaustion and enemies you can't track. If you have resources, conceal them. If you must use light, diffuse it. Cover flashlights with cloth. Bounce illumination off walls. Avoid sharp beams that announce position. Sound discipline matters. Close windows. Muffle movement. The night listens even when you think no one is watching. I need to pause here, not for silence, but for honesty. I've covered wars. I've reported on disasters where the ground itself turned against us. But there is something uniquely terrifying about watching a familiar city forget itself. About hearing laughter turn into shouting, then into running footsteps, then into nothing at all. About realizing that the rules you internalized your entire life were conditional, and the conditions just expired. We're receiving fragmented updates now. A grocery store 2 blocks north has been breached, not looted in a frenzy, but stripped, methodical. People working together without speaking. That's important. Cooperation doesn't disappear at night. It mutates. It becomes tribal, in-group only. Everyone else is an obstacle. If you're listening and considering leaving your shelter to check things out, don't. Curiosity gets you cataloged. Movement gets you noticed. If you must relocate, do it with purpose, with numbers you trust, and with a destination that doesn't change mid-route. Wandering is how you become someone else's opportunity. Another message, this one from Jamal, voice memo barely audible over wind. "Alex, the streetlights flickered for a second. People cheered. Then they went out again. The cheering stopped fast." That's hope colliding with reality. Hope is dangerous when it's loud. Manage it quietly. If power returns, it will not be everywhere at once. Transitional periods are the most volatile. People emerge too early, assume safety too soon, and the night punishes optimism without backup. If you are with others right now, Talk to them, but keep it low, keep it human. Share tasks, share watch. Fatigue makes bad decisions feel reasonable. Rotate rest. Hydrate even if you don't feel thirsty. Stress dehydrates you faster than heat. If someone is panicking, ground them. Name objects, count breaths, anchor to the present. Panic spreads faster than fire in darkness. I'm looking at the clock. We've been on air for just over an hour, though time feels elastic tonight. Outside, the city is quieter than it should be, which is never a good sign. Quiet means consolidation. It means people have chosen sides, chosen shelters, chosen targets, or decided to wait. The night doesn't create evil. It removes the barriers that kept it contained. And what seeps out tells us who we really were all along. If this signal cuts, remember this: survive the night, and you give tomorrow a chance. Stay small, stay smart, stay together. This is Alex Mercer, still here, still broadcasting as long as the dark allows it. If you can hear me, hold on. If you're just joining us, don't move. Don't adjust your position yet. Let the sound of this voice settle before you make any decisions. This is Alex Mercer, still broadcasting, still watching the night press its weight against the city like a living thing. We've crossed another threshold. Authorities issued a citywide curfew 20 minutes ago. Automated alerts, pre-recorded warnings looping through dead systems. The voice of order echoing where order no longer exists. Remain indoors. Avoid travel. Violators will be detained. Strong words, hollow ones, because hunger does not obey orders. Fear does not respect timelines. And desperation has never waited for permission. Curfews only work when someone is willing and able to enforce them. Right now, enforcement is an idea, not a reality. Patrol units are sheltering in place. Command centers are dark or silent. Response times have stretched into irrelevance. The curfew exists on paper and in memory, but not on the street. And that creates something far more dangerous than lawlessness: assumption. Anyone seen outside after dark is now presumed hostile, desperate, or hunting. Intent no longer matters. Context doesn't matter. If you're out there, you've already declared something about yourself. You are willing to risk everything. And people respond to that declaration with preemptive force. I'm getting a live update now. Stand by. Yes. Reports from the southern blocks indicate individuals being turned away from shelters not because they were violent, but because they were unknown. That's the new math. Trust has collapsed inward. Communities aren't expanding. They're sealing. Doors aren't locked to keep danger out. They're locked to define who belongs inside. If you are listening and still considering moving after this curfew announcement, understand this. The rule isn't stay inside. The rule is be recognizable. And most of you aren't. Listener Evelyn just sent a text, shaky but clear. Alex, my son needs insulin. Pharmacy is 6 blocks away. Curfew or not, I have to go. What do I do? Evelyn, this is where theory breaks against reality. If you must move, don't look like a scavenger, and don't look like a threat. Carry visible medical markers if you have them. Move with purpose, not speed. Avoid groups, both large and small. Large groups see you as an intrusion. Small groups see you as an opportunity. Stick to the edges of streets, not the centers. Listen more than you look. And if you feel watched, assume you are. Because tonight, that assumption is often correct. Which brings us to the next truth the daylight never prepared us for. The streets no longer belong to the lawful. They belong to the violent. Not chaotic violence, directed violence. With law enforcement overwhelmed or effectively gone, dominance has replaced law. Strength, numbers, and reputation now determine who moves freely and who moves carefully. Streets have become contested zones, not patrolled ones. Hesitation is weakness here. Uncertainty invites testing. Violence has become currency, not always spent, but always displayed. A reputation for using it is often enough to avoid having to. We're hearing about intersections controlled by informal checkpoints. No uniforms, no insignia, just bodies, improvised weapons, and the confidence that comes from knowing no one is coming to stop you. Some are protecting blocks. Some are extracting tolls. Some are simply daring anyone to challenge them. Order hasn't vanished. It's mutated into something brutal, immediate, and deeply personal. If you are unwilling to use violence, you retreat indoors. If you cannot retreat, you disappear into the margins. And the margins are where the night feeds. Listener Andre called in moments ago before his signal dropped. I'm going to paraphrase what he said because the line was unstable. They didn't rob me. They just wanted to know who I was with. When I said no one, they told me that was a bad answer. Let that sit with you. Neutrality is no longer invisible. It's suspicious. In a city that's breaking into fragments, being unaffiliated makes you unprotected. Now listen closely, because this next part might save you. Sound has become the most dangerous sense after dark. Sight lies. Sound tells the truth too late. Footsteps echo farther than you think. Fabric brushes sound like signals. A dropped object can redraw a map of your position in someone else's mind. Whispers don't feel private anymore. They feel intentional, directed, as if someone is speaking to the dark, not to you. Silence feels wrong too clean, too controlled. People are no longer waiting to confirm danger. They are striking first because hesitation has proven fatal. This isn't paranoia in the clinical sense. This is adaptive behavior under collapse. Your brain is cataloging patterns at a speed you didn't know it could manage. Every noise is evaluated. Scout, trap, accident, bait. And the cost of misjudgment is immediate. That's why tempers are shorter. That's why reactions are sharper. That's why misunderstandings turn violent before words can catch up. I need to read you a message from Lena, sent less than a minute ago. Alex, I heard whispering outside my apartment door. When I checked the peephole, no one was there. Now I can hear breathing. Lena, if you're still listening, do not engage. Do not announce yourself. Do not threaten. Threats confirm presence. If you can safely retreat deeper into your space, do so. Create noise only if you must. Controlled noise, sudden and overwhelming, like a radio at full volume for a few seconds. Then silence. It disrupts intent without revealing position. Most predators prefer certainty. Confusion sends them elsewhere. Outside the studio, the city feels like it's holding its breath. That's the most dangerous moment, the pause before momentum. We're seeing fewer random movements now and more deliberate ones. Routes repeated, signals exchanged. This is the night organizing itself. And once it does, it becomes much harder to navigate without being absorbed or rejected by force. I want to speak to you not just as a broadcaster, but as another human sitting in the dark with you. This night will try to convince you that violence is inevitable, that brutality is the only language left. That's not entirely true, but restraint now requires strategy, not morality alone. Choose invisibility over confrontation. Choose preparation over pride. Choose survival over being right. If dawn comes, and it will eventually, it won't reset what happened here, but it will slow it. Light restores witnesses. Witnesses restore consequence. And consequence is the thin line that keeps us from tearing each other apart. Until then, listen carefully. Move only when you must. And remember, if you can hear whispers, it means you're close enough to matter to someone else. And that means you need to decide quickly how you want to be remembered by the night. This is Alex Mercer. Still on the air, still with you. As long as the dark allows. If you're still with me, understand this. What we're entering now is the part no emergency manual prepares you for. The part that doesn't make the news until it's already over. The violence everyone fears is not the random kind. The faceless stranger in the dark. No. The most disturbing violence unfolding tonight is familiar. It knows your name. It knows your routines. It knows which window sticks, which door creaks, which nights you come home late. Neighbors are turning into predators, not because they suddenly changed, but because proximity is power when systems fail. Social memory, the quiet mental ledger of who lives where, who has what, who is weak when, has become a targeting system. I'm receiving reports now of disputes resurfacing that were never really resolved. Arguments over parking spaces, noise complaints, debts that weren't a big deal anymore. Tonight, those grievances are no longer filtered through politeness or law. They're addressed with tools meant to end conversations permanently. Violence becomes efficient when it's personal, cruel when it's informed. Someone knows you live alone. Someone knows you keep supplies. Someone knows your spouse is gone tonight. This isn't chaos. It's precision born from familiarity. If you're listening and assuming danger only comes from outside your block, you are already miscalculating. Listener Tomas just sent a message I wish I didn't have to read. Alex, the guy across the hall, helped me move in 3 years ago. Tonight he tried my door handle. Didn't knock. Just tested it. Tomas, that moment, that quiet test, is the sound of a line being crossed internally, long before it's crossed physically. Lock redundancy matters now. Block doors if you can. Barricades don't have to be strong, they have to be loud. Sound buys you seconds. Seconds buy you choices. And here's another truth emerging from the darkness. Blackouts don't just remove light, they create schedules. Darkness becomes operational time. Criminal groups, organized or improvised, aren't wandering blindly. They're moving deliberately when visibility is lowest and fear is highest. Night is no longer rest, it's work. Ambushes replace robberies. Confrontation is avoided unless it guarantees outcome. Surveillance is replaced by instinct and pattern recognition. Survivors, real survivors, are already learning the rhythms. Which hours are deadliest? Which streets funnel movement? Which intersections go quiet right before something happens? Between midnight and 3 a.m., reports spike. That's when exhaustion dulls judgment and hope thins. That's when people take risks they swore they wouldn't. If you're planning movement, avoid those hours if at all possible. Hide instead of run. Running makes noise. Running creates silhouettes. Stillness, when chosen deliberately, keeps you off the board. This is no longer about bravery. It's about patience. Listener Naomi writes, Alex, it's too quiet on my street. No cars, no voices, just one dog barking far away. Naomi, that's not peace, that's vacancy. Areas go quiet after they've been cleared, either by fear or force. Quiet streets aren't safe streets anymore. They're decided streets. If you're sheltering there, stay invisible. Do not assume absence means safety, which brings us to the most dangerous misconception of all. Light is no longer comfort. Light is a liability. A candle in a window doesn't say, I'm human. It says, I'm here. A flashlight sweep doesn't say, I'm careful. It says, I exist. A generator hum doesn't say, prepared. It says, resources. Sound and light are invitations now, coordinates handed to anyone listening. Survivors are adapting by erasing themselves, taping over LEDs, using infrared if they have it, learning to navigate their own homes by memory and touch. Total darkness has become the closest thing to safety. I'm looking out again from the studio. The city is a void now. No skyline, no glow. Just black punctured occasionally by gunfire, by firelight, by sudden flares of violence that bloom and vanish. To exist visibly at night is to declare yourself a variable in someone else's plan. And variables get eliminated. Listener Ruth sent a final message before her battery died. Alex, I turned off everything. I can't even see my hands. Is this what surviving looks like? Ruth, yes. Sometimes survival looks like absence, like choosing not to be part of the night's calculations, like letting the darkness pass over you instead of challenging it. I won't lie to you. Dawn will not fix what's broken, but it will interrupt it. Light slows predators. Light brings witnesses, and witnesses bring consequence back into the equation. Until then, the rules are different, and pretending otherwise is dangerous. If you're still listening, still breathing, still hidden, hold that line. You are doing the hardest thing a human can do, resisting the urge to be seen, heard, acknowledged. Tonight, survival belongs to those who leave no footprint in the dark. This is Alex Mercer, still broadcasting, still with you, and hoping quietly that the light finds us before the night finishes deciding who remains. If you can still hear this frequency, then you're hearing something rare tonight. Continuity. Most systems don't survive long enough to tell a story from beginning to middle. We're somewhere past the middle now, and what's happening outside, what you're hearing or trying not to hear, is the sound of abandonment settling in. Emergency services have gone quiet. Not officially, not ceremonially, just functionally. Dispatch lines still exist, but response has thinned to the point of meaninglessness. Sirens have vanished, not because nothing is happening, but because there's no one left to send. And in that absence, screams behave differently. At night, with no traffic, no engines, no ambient noise to absorb them, screams stretch. They travel. They echo off buildings and come back altered, unrecognizable, like the city itself is answering. And the most horrifying lesson people are learning right now, some for the first time, some again, is this: no one is coming. I need to be careful how I say this, because it's easy to mistake it for cruelty. The sound of suffering is becoming background noise, not because people don't care, but because caring without the ability to act becomes unbearable. The human mind adapts by dulling itself. Empathy erodes not from malice, but from overload. When every scream is a choice between helplessness and self-preservation, people choose the option that lets them survive another hour. This is how good people begin to sound indifferent. This is how silence spreads. Listener Daniel sent a message just moments ago. Alex, someone was screaming 2 blocks away. I started toward the door. My wife stopped me. She said if I go, I won't come back. We turned off the lights. I can still hear it. Daniel, what you're feeling right now, that sickness, that shame, that relief tangled together, is not moral failure. It's triage. In collapse, ethics don't disappear, but they narrow. People don't stop caring. They stop being able to afford the cost of caring openly. There are reports, unconfirmed but consistent, of people screaming intentionally now. Bait, tests, a way to draw movement, light, sound. This doesn't mean every scream is false. It means every scream is dangerous. That ambiguity is poison to compassion. When pain becomes indistinguishable from trap, people retreat inward. Doors close, windows seal. The city teaches itself not to listen, and as the night goes on, something else has already started to change the rhythm of urban life. Something subtle, but permanent. Cities are learning to empty before sunset. This didn't happen all at once. It began hours ago, shops closing early just in case, transit slowing then stopping, offices releasing workers not at dusk, but mid-afternoon, windows going dark while the sky is still blue. What used to be a transition, day to night, has become a deadline. By the time the sun touches the horizon now, entire districts are already hollow. Streets drain rapidly, like blood leaving a limb. Traffic thins, then vanishes. Footsteps disappear. The city exhales and does not inhale again. Anyone still outside after that moment is assumed to be dangerous, or already doomed. There is no neutral presence anymore. Presence itself is suspicious. Listener Maya wrote earlier tonight, Alex, I left work late. I was the only one on the train platform. Even the ads were dark. I've never felt so visible. Maya, that's the reversal taking hold. Cities were built to protect individuals through crowds. Now crowds are gone, and isolation is exposure. Sunset is no longer romantic, no longer restful. It's a closing gate. Miss it, and you're on the wrong side of the city's unspoken agreement. This reverse rhythm is how long-term collapse settles in. People adapt schedules not to productivity, but to survival. Errands compress into daylight hours. Social life collapses into interiors. The night becomes something to endure, not inhabit. And with each passing evening, the boundary hardens. Those who don't make it inside in time aren't rescued. They're categorized, written off, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. I'm watching it happen even here. Streets that once pulsed at midnight are empty now before sundown. The absence is loud in its own way. It tells you that the city remembers what happened last night and is trying not to repeat it by removing the variables. If you're listening and still have the luxury of planning, plan backward from sunset. Treat it like a hard stop. Be where you intend to survive before the light begins to fade. Because once darkness takes over, the city no longer recognizes you as a citizen, only as a risk. And when the screams come, and they will, remember this, even if it hurts. Staying alive tonight does not make you heartless. It makes you available to help when helping is possible again. Empathy is not measured by how much pain you absorb, but by how long you endure. This is Alex Mercer, still on the air, still listening to the silence between sounds, and hoping you're already somewhere safe before the city decides the day is over. If you're still tuned in, then you already know the streets are no longer where this city lives at night. What's happening now is quieter, harder to see, and far more dangerous. People are fleeing upward. Fire escapes, stairwells, ladders dragged from alleys. Rooftops are becoming the new ground floor of survival. And with that shift, the city has entered a vertical war, one you won't hear about until it's already decided. High ground has always meant safety. It means sightlines. It means warning. It means time. From above, you can see movement before it reaches you. You can hear trouble coming while it's still choosing a direction. For people trapped in darkened buildings, rooftops feel like air, like distance, like control. But elevation doesn't just offer safety, it advertises value. And wherever value concentrates, conflict follows. We're getting fragmented reports now. Rooftop silhouettes mistaken for threats, then becoming threats. People signaling with mirrors during the last light of dusk, not to communicate peace, but to map who else is up there. Rooftops are becoming shelters, lookout points, staging areas, and yes, in some cases, sniper nests. Not always firearms, sometimes rocks, sometimes improvised weapons, sometimes just gravity itself. A shove from 5 stories up doesn't need ammunition. Listener Caleb sent a message 5 minutes ago. Alex, there are 3 groups on nearby buildings. No one's talking. Everyone's watching. Caleb, that's the standoff phase, when words still exist but no one trusts them enough to use them. Control of elevation means control of sight, and sight means territory. Rooftop access points, doors, ladders, stairwell exits, are becoming choke points. Whoever holds them decides who belongs above and who stays exposed below. And here's the part people don't expect. The ground doesn't know this war is happening. From the street, it looks like abandonment. From above, it's chess played in shadow, movements timed to clouds passing over the moon. Figures freezing mid-step when someone else shifts position. A city stacked with invisible front lines. If you're considering going upward, listen carefully. High ground buys safety only if it buys exclusivity. A shared rooftop is a negotiation waiting to fail. If you cannot secure access points, if you cannot control noise and light discipline, elevation may make you more visible, not less. And falling is final. The city doesn't forgive mistakes made above it. Which brings us to the most chilling evolution of the night so far. Violence is no longer an outcome. It's a language. Words are slowing people down. Negotiation requires trust, patience, shared assumptions. None of those survive long in collapse. Violence communicates faster. A threat is no longer spoken. It's demonstrated. A broken door is a sentence. A blocked stairwell is punctuation. A body font where it can be seen is a message broadcast without static. Reputation is spreading now, block to block, rooftop to rooftop. Not through names, but through stories. Don't go near that building. They don't hesitate. They pushed someone last night. People are learning to read posture the way they once read tone. A still figure leaning forward isn't relaxed. It's deciding. Hands visible doesn't mean safe. It means ready. Silence isn't neutrality. It's calculation. Listener Amani sent this earlier. Alex, someone stepped toward me without saying anything. I stepped back. They stopped. That was the whole conversation. Imani, that's fluency. That's what communication looks like now. Distance negotiated in inches. Intent expressed through motion. The absence of violence interpreted as restraint, not kindness. This shift is dangerous because it's efficient. Violence removes ambiguity. It clarifies hierarchy. It establishes boundaries faster than words ever could. And once a population learns that lesson, it's hard to unlearn. People stop asking questions whose answers might get them hurt. They start assuming and acting accordingly. I need to say this plainly. If you're waiting for things to calm down so people can talk again, you're waiting for the wrong signal. Calm will not arrive first. Structure will. Someone will impose order, locally, brutally, temporarily. And that order will be enforced not by explanation, but by example. If you are listening and trying to survive without becoming part of that language, your best defense is predictability. Be boring. Be quiet. Be consistent. Don't escalate posture. Don't challenge space. Don't try to win arguments that no longer exist. And above all, don't assume silence means consent. Silence just means the other person is still deciding what you're worth. I can hear movement on the roof above the studio now. Slow. Careful. Not random. I don't know who they are, and they don't know I'm here. But we are already speaking to each other in the only way the night understands. By staying still. By not revealing more than necessary. This city is learning new grammar under pressure. Sentences written in footsteps. Paragraphs written in absence. And the punctuation, sharp, final, unforgettable. This is Alex Mercer, still broadcasting, still translating the night as it rewrites us. Stay low, stay unreadable, and remember, up here or down there, every movement says something now. If you're still listening, brace yourself, because the city's transformation isn't subtle anymore. It's spectacular. Literal flames now define the night. When the power fails completely, when every wire, every transformer, every automated light gives up its ghost, fire returns, not as warmth alone, not as comfort, but as dominion. Look around the city tonight, and you'll see streets painted in flickering orange, shadows stretching like hungry animals across cracked pavement. Windows glow with molten light from within. Cars burn, dumpsters ignite, abandoned stores turn into braziers. Each flame is a landmark, each spark a signal, and every flicker is a threat. Fire provides warmth for the living, yes. Light for the cautious, for those trying to navigate without being seen. But it also casts those long, jagged shadows that predators prefer. The kind that make every alley a possible trap, every corner a calculus of risk. By morning, what burned overnight will be uninhabitable. Roofs collapsed, floors charred, apartments rendered void. The city is redrawing itself constantly, block by block, blaze by blaze. Nothing stays where it was, and the ground beneath your feet can no longer be assumed safe. I just received a call, fragmented, shaking. Someone who claims to be on 7th and Main. They said, "Alex, buildings are lighting the street themselves. I can see someone moving between fires, checking doors, stepping in shadows. I don't know who they are, but they're hunting." That's the critical lesson. Fire doesn't just illuminate, it delineates. It tells you where you are, where you can't go, and who might already be waiting. Every fire tonight is a marker of survival, a declaration of presence, and often a perimeter for violence. It isn't accidental. People use fire strategically now, whether to mask movement, flush someone out, or create zones of control. If you are listening, Understand this. Avoid the light. Let the orange glow guide them, not you. Darkness, the real darkness between the flames, is still the only advantage most survivors have. And as fire replaces the artificial safety of streetlights, another truth emerges. The concept of law, of governance, of formal order, does not vanish. It localizes. Night gangs replace the police. They are the new curators of consequence. Armed, organized, and ruthless in a way that daylight never permitted, they claim neighborhoods. Curfews are no longer announcements. They are enforced borders, drawn by muscle, reputation, and a willingness to kill. Punishment is public. Trespassers are humiliated, beaten, sometimes executed as warnings. Allegiance, your visible allegiance, is the only currency of safety. Cross the wrong line, stand in the wrong place, hesitate too long. The response is immediate and brutal. There is no appeal. There is no process. There is no reporting to headquarters, no review board. The badge has been replaced by a symbol, a hand sign, a mark on a door, a color of clothing. Resistance is lethal. And yet, in this reality, many find themselves choosing loyalty not out of trust, but survival. I want to pause and read a message that came in less than 2 minutes ago from a listener, Victor. He writes, "Alex, I live on the north side. There's a gang here now. They control 3 blocks. They're not asking questions. They're giving orders. We do as they say because the last people who didn't, well, their bodies are still out there. Safety is conditional. Food, water, even access to water pumps. They only allow it if you follow their rules. It's like living inside someone else's grid now." Victor's situation is becoming typical. Across the city, groups have taken the tools of authority, the threat of force, the promise of protection, the ability to punish, and concentrated them in hands they can trust, usually themselves. Justice is no longer rational. It is immediate, arbitrary, and terrifyingly personal. And every block under a gang's control becomes its own microstate, its own ecosystem of fear. Meanwhile, fires continue to flicker in the distance. The smell of smoke curls through streets like an invisible cordon. Survivors are learning new patterns, which flames indicate occupation, which indicate danger, and which are simply chaos left to its own devices. Movement is measured now. Footsteps are calculated. Breaths are held in synchrony with distant crackling. You can't run. You can't signal indiscriminately. Every act of presence must either hide you completely or announce you with deliberate intent. Every decision counts. I can hear reports now from the east side. Streets once busy, once familiar, are completely engulfed in shadow punctuated by firelight. Gangs patrol openly, marking territory with threats and with bodies. Doors that were once safe are now checkpoints. Stairwells have guards. Windows have watchers. Every sound of movement is measured, analyzed, and potentially lethal. This is the night reconfiguring itself. Law, city infrastructure, human habit, all replaced by fire, fear, and force. If you are listening and still trying to survive tonight, you must adapt. Respect fire, but do not approach it unnecessarily. Track it from a distance. Move silently. Avoid known gang territories unless you can pass without detection. Remember, survival now isn't about being right or being brave. It's about staying unreadable, invisible, and unclaimed. Every open street, every flickering flame, every sound is a signal. Listen. Learn. Don't assume mercy. And above all, don't forget that these gangs, these enforcers of night, are learning too. Every pattern you establish, every move you make, they're cataloging it. In this city, knowledge is the deadliest weapon, and silence the greatest shield. This is Alex Mercer, still broadcasting. The city burns, the gangs rule, and the night speaks only to those who are paying attention. If you can hear me, stay alive. Learn the rules of fire and force. And above all, hide until sunrise, or the night will remember your presence. If you're still tuned in, you're witnessing something few have acknowledged aloud tonight. The way darkness rewrites childhood. Outside, the city is alive with fire, movement, and violence. Inside homes, interiors that were once full of warmth, laughter, and careless joy have become classrooms in silence. Childhood ends at night. Not with ceremony, not with trauma in the way we usually think of it, but with quiet compliance. Every cry, every whimper, every outburst of curiosity becomes a risk. Parents no longer hush children out of annoyance. They teach silence as survival. Laughter disappears. Toys lie abandoned in corners where shadows can't see them. The simplest acts of innocence, singing, talking, playing, are muted because the cost of attention is too high. And the children? They adapt faster than anyone. They watch faces. They read tension, fear, exhaustion. They learn to anticipate danger before it arrives. Innocence doesn't shatter in a dramatic moment. It suffocates quietly, like a candle starved of oxygen, a lesson learned in microseconds over weeks that feel like decades. I just received a message from a listener named Nadia, time-stamped only 3 minutes ago. Alex, my son asked why we can't laugh tonight. I didn't know how to answer. He's 7. He understands danger better than I do now. He watches my hands, my posture, before he moves. Every wrong movement gets noticed. Nadia, what you're describing is one of the cruelest shifts the night forces on humanity. Children are not just learning fear, they are becoming extensions of adult caution. They become instinctual, silent, and alert in ways most adults cannot maintain for long periods. Their nervous systems are sharper than ours now because they cannot afford mistakes. And in that training, something precious is quietly eroded. The home, once a place of growth and laughter, becomes an incubator for survival skills that no parent ever wanted to teach this young. Speaking of homes, they stop feeling safe quickly when the night evolves into this reality. Doors, once barriers to the world, now delay intrusion rather than prevent it. Windows no longer protect, they expose. Walls, thin in design or worn by time, carry every creak, every footstep, every whisper. Nighttime transforms familiar spaces into listening posts, into waiting rooms for potential threats. Families sleep in shifts, not for comfort, but for coverage. One person remains awake while another rests. One eyes the staircase while another checks the hallway. Hiding becomes as important as sleeping. Interiors become labyrinths, not for imagination, but for defense. Bedrooms, once sanctuaries, now serve as observation posts. The scent of fear mingles with everyday life. Safety becomes conditional, temporary, fragile, never guaranteed. And with every hour, the house itself seems to shrink in perceived protection. Even worse, people don't help anymore. The instinct to offer aid, to comfort someone in distress, has been replaced by calculation. A scream is no longer an automatic signal for action. It might be bait. A wounded person lying in the street might be a test, a lure to draw attention, a trap. Compassion has become operationally dangerous. Communities that once reinforced themselves through aid and mutual support now turn inward. People watch. They hesitate. And then, when the risk outweighs the potential benefit, they turn away. This is not cruelty. It is survival. Humanity isn't evil tonight. It is cautious, conservative to the point of appearing cruel, because every act of help could erase your own chance at continuing. I'm getting real-time updates from multiple districts. One family, corner of 8th and Riverside, barricaded themselves in the top floor of their apartment building. They report constant movement outside, shadows shifting, footsteps pacing, whispers that make them freeze mid-breath. The father spoke to me in a low voice over a shaky connection. Alex, we've stopped opening doors. The fire alarm went off in the building and people ran past. No one was helping anyone. They just pushed, they grabbed, and they left. We couldn't even breathe outside without someone noticing us. That is the pattern now. Every human interaction is a test. Every opportunity to help is weighed against the potential cost. Streets empty before sunset, windows close, and even when you are trapped in familiar walls, you are not safe. Children in these environments are learning lessons that feel abstract to adults, but are brutally practical to them. They notice. If you speak, you announce yourself. If you run, you mark your presence. If you cry, someone will exploit it. They learn to move quietly, to hold their breath, to mimic adults' tension in posture and gesture. They read fear as language. Adults teach it consciously, but children also learn through observation, through mimicry, through necessity. The line between innocence and survival blurs, and by the end of the night, the child who can stay quiet may well be the only one left to survive with you. Homes, as they are, no longer offer physical or emotional safety. They delay the inevitable, but they do not prevent it. Windows must be covered, doors reinforced if possible, noise minimized. People sleep in shifts to maintain vigilance. Even the seemingly innocuous, the creak of a floorboard, the hum of a fridge, the flicker of a candle, must be evaluated for risk. Every object becomes part of the defensive strategy. Even walls listen. Even walls judge. The night turns familiar structures into active participants in a threat environment. And you must train yourself and those you care about to treat the home not as comfort, but as temporary shelter, as a protective cage in which every action, even the smallest, must be calculated. Meanwhile, compassion is an operational hazard. Witnessing suffering without being able to intervene produces stress that compounds exponentially. People stop helping. You see it in real time on the streets, and you see it in apartments like yours. The neighbor who once waved hello now waits silently in shadow. A scream or a shout is ignored, not because it isn't heard, but because to react may mean death. Even experienced adults hesitate. And when adults hesitate, children notice. They learn that aid is conditional, that action is risky, that survival may demand emotional detachment. Humanity is not gone tonight. It is recalibrating. Empathy is compressed, rationed, and functional rather than moral. The price of intervention is measured in seconds and lives. Listener Haruto sent a voice memo a few minutes ago. Alex, my little sister asked why we can't go outside to see the fire. I told her it's dangerous. She whispered, "Are we safe here?" I don't know how to answer her anymore. Haruto, your answer is the reality millions are learning right now. The night does not guarantee safety. No building is impregnable. Every structure, every barricade, every lock is temporary. And yet, the child still asks, because children ask questions even when answers are terrifying. That tension, the need for guidance versus the inability to guarantee safety, is now the invisible curriculum of survival. It is shaping the next generation in ways we are only beginning to comprehend. For those of you listening, take note of this. Teach silence, but teach awareness. Reinforce the home as a temporary protective space, but do not promise absolute security. Train children to recognize risk, but maintain their humanity in whatever ways you can. Prepare adults to act cautiously and decisively, because hesitation can be fatal. And most importantly, manage compassion deliberately. Decide when and how to help, when and how to intervene, and accept that some actions will have to be deferred, even if they are morally painful. In this night, judgment and survival are inseparable. The city outside is alive with fire, shadow, and movement. Children are awake and alert beyond their years. Homes are cages, not sanctuaries. Compassion has been suspended, not lost, but strategically rationed. And for anyone still breathing in these conditions, your awareness, adaptability, and discipline are the difference between survival and exposure. This is Alex Mercer, still broadcasting, still with you in the quiet, in the tension, in the thick air of a city that has learned to teach fear faster than it ever taught love. Listen carefully, move deliberately, protect those who depend on you, and above all, stay silent, stay still, and stay alive. If you're still tuned in, and if your hands are steady enough to hold this frequency, then you're about to hear the part that almost no one admits aloud. The night turns people into animals. And I don't mean figuratively. I mean biologically, psychologically, socially. Hunger gnaws at the edges of thought. Fear presses down, relentless, shaping every decision. Darkness strips away the trappings we call identity. Your job, your neighborhood, your name, they all vanish under the night's authority. What remains is instinct. Fight, flee, hide. Choose fast or perish. The long-term plans we rely on, careers, retirement, friendship, morality, collapse into nothing more than abstract memory. Civilization peels back, layer by layer, until what is left is the raw blueprint of human behavior. Survival, dominance, reproduction, and avoidance. It is not madness. It is regression, natural and frightening in its clarity. And the night, this living, breathing, watching night, reveals exactly what we are without structure, without witnesses, without consequence. I've been monitoring multiple channels of communication tonight, and reports are confirming the pattern. Listener Selena texted, "Alex, people are looting silently now. Not shouting, not arguing, just precision. Eyes flicking, bodies bending, moving. It's like watching predators hunt. Even my neighbors, friends, people I've shared meals with, are acting like something I don't recognize." Selena, what you're describing is the very edge of human adaptation. Not cruelty for cruelty's sake, but survival stripped to its core. People don't have to be violent to regress this way. The need to protect self and kin, to secure resources, to avoid being noticed by others who will take what you have. That instinct overrides learned behavior. Social niceties die first. Trust becomes a memory. Alliances are tactical, temporary, and fragile. The behavioral patterns are fascinating and horrifying. Movement is measured, silent, predatory. Sound is calculated. Scent, light, even shadow are signals of threat or opportunity. Eyes scan constantly. Every step is a potential trap or a path to safety. Sleep is reduced to micro-naps. Hunger is a constant motivator. Fear becomes cognitive shorthand, directing attention faster than reason can process. The city has become a pressure cooker, and under that pressure, humans revert to the behaviors that evolution designed for extreme conditions. It's efficient, it's terrifying, and it's indiscriminate. I want to read a live voice message from Hassan, time-stamped a few minutes ago. Alex, I saw a group corner someone. No one yelled, no one argued, just grabbed, and they left the body there. My hands were shaking. I ran. I think that person knew it would happen, and they couldn't stop it. We're all animals now. Hassan, that's the crucial point. People are not losing their minds. They are reacting rationally to a world that no longer offers rational protection. The predator and the prey are roles determined not by morality, but by circumstance. The night decides who plays which role, and it does so without prejudice. The lessons for survival are hard, but they are real. You must understand instinct as both ally and enemy. Your own impulses, fight or flight, can save you if managed. Noise attracts. Light exposes. Hesitation kills. Over-planning is a luxury you cannot afford, yet under-planning is fatal. Adaptation is continuous. The mind must recalibrate constantly to anticipate the behavior of people who are now operating in an instinctual framework. There are no second chances tonight, and the night doesn't care how experienced or moral you think you are. And yet, there is a counterpoint. Every hour survived is a victory, measured in the simplest terms, human life. Morning feels like triumph because survival is counted in nights. Dawn does not bring hope, not yet. It brings pause, a moment to assess what is still standing, what was lost, who is still alive, who is gone. Every sunrise is earned. Every day a ledger is kept, tallying the small victories of having navigated darkness, violence, hunger, and fear. And every sunset is a threat reminder, a clock counting down to the next test. The psychological toll is immense, and yet it is manageable only if approached in increments. You measure survival in nights, not months, not years. The night is the unit of accountability. Listener Marisol sent a message just now. Alex, I can't describe the relief of seeing sunlight on my balcony. Not because I feel safe, because I know tomorrow will be night again, but because we survived the last one. That's all we can measure now. Marisol, that is the truth that echoes through every city block, every burned street, every rooftop barricade. Sunlight is a temporary shield, a window of observation, a moment to breathe and count your people, your resources, your shelter. Hope will return gradually, but the metric of survival remains the night itself. I've received scattered reports from neighborhoods that survived the fires, avoided gangs, and stayed quiet through hours of deadly movement. They describe an eerie calm at sunrise. Birds call, dogs bark, smoke hangs in layers above destroyed blocks. But people do not celebrate. Relief is cautious. Laughter is sparse. The first morning light is always a survey, a census, a test. Who survived? What remains? Where has the city shifted overnight? Every sunbeam illuminates loss as well as life, and every shadow reminds you the next night is approaching. Even the structures themselves are reminders of mortality. Buildings that survived the fire last night may collapse by the next night. either from structural fatigue or from human interference. Streets may change course as rubble falls, barricades are built, and debris shifts under gravity. Every physical landmark is temporary. Every familiar route may no longer exist after darkness returns. And you must adapt to these transformations with the same vigilance as you adapt to human behavior. The final lesson tonight, and perhaps the hardest, is that humans have always measured survival against adversity. But tonight, adversity has become omnipresent, relentless, and personal. Hunger, fear, darkness, these forces strip away pretense, strip away rules, strip away identity. And every time you survive, every sunrise you witness is a victory, a confirmation that for now, instinct and discipline outweigh chaos and predation. So for everyone still listening, still breathing, still hidden, track the nights, count who remains, track what is still standing, learn the rhythms of danger, prepare to move or stay invisible when darkness falls again. Protect those you can, but understand that the rules of survival have changed. Adaptation is no longer optional. Silence, patience, and observation are as vital as food, water, and shelter. The city is alive with shadows, with instinct, with the slow regression and recalibration of humanity. And somewhere beyond the fires, the blocked streets, the empty rooftops, and the silent children, dawn waits. It will arrive, and with it comes relief, not hope, an earned reprieve before the night tests you again. This is Alex Mercer, still broadcasting, still alive, still counting the victories of survival in the only way that matters tonight, by enduring the dark. Stay hidden, stay quiet, stay alive. And remember, the night is patient, and it does not forget. And with that, the night slowly begins to ease, at least for now. Dawn creeps over the horizon, washing the city in pale light, revealing what remains and what has been lost. Take a deep breath. Count yourself among the living. Remember every lesson the dark has taught you, every sound, every shadow, every heartbeat that carried you through. Survival is temporary, fragile, but tonight, you endured. This is Alex Mercer, signing off. Stay vigilant, stay quiet, and when darkness returns, let it find you ready.